will come to order. We're going to start in a subcommittee, and we are going to start with Senator Trent's Senate Bill 1346. He's making his way to the desk, and Senator, whenever you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Curtis Trent, representing District 20. So 1346 is a fairly simple and straightforward bill. Currently, any government entity loses its sovereign immunity when named as a second insured by a contracted entity. This measure would change that by allowing the governmental entity to retain its sovereign immunity in such cases. And of course, the benefit of this is that the taxpayers are no longer on the hook for an issue that they were not responsible for. It was the responsibility of the contracted entity, and of course, the contracted entity is adequately insured for any damages that they have caused. So we're just protecting the taxpayer here with this measure. Be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I don't have any questions. Do we have any?
We're not opening it to the audience for questions, right?
We may have to if we want to have any questions today. Anyone here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 1346, please come forward. Be sure to fill out a witness form and leave it on the desk. And you may tell us who you are, and you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. My name is Pat Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of Municipal League of Metro St. Louis. This actually stemmed from a court case ruling about 4 years ago that, through their interpretation, it came out and said that basically, that, again, if a political subdivision in the state of Missouri is named as a second insured, they would give up their sovereign immunity. This doesn't affect municipalities, it's county and state contracts as well. We don't think that that's really the intent of their interpretation of the current statutes, but this change would fix that. In the private sector, it's very common to be named as a second insured to protect yourself from mistakes that contractors make, and this is no different than that. The cities or political subdivisions still have their caps, still have their responsibilities, but the contractor would cover them for their mistakes that they make during their work for the city or political subdivision. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
I think I'm good. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, in favor of.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Richard Sheets. I'm the Executive Director of the Missouri Municipal League. I want to go in support of this bill and thank Senator Trent for fixing this loophole in the law. And I really have nothing to add, just that we support that. It's a very important bill.
I have no questions. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, in favor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Brandon Koch on behalf of Missouri Insurance Coalition, testifying in support of the bill. The primary interest that we have in this is it provides clarity within the contract.
Thank you. I have no questions.
Thank you.
Next up, in favor. Seeing none, anyone here in opposition to Senate Bill 1346? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator, any final comments?
No, just appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the reins over to Senator Trent when he comes back up here, and then we'll do the next three bills.
Next up will be public hearing for Senate Bill 834. Senator, please proceed when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Sandy Crawford, District 28. Thanks for the opportunity to hear Senate Bill 834 today. Senate Bill 834 would clarify the handling of life and health reinsurance contracts if a Missouri company is placed in conservation, rehabilitation, or liquidation. So when a life and health insurer becomes insolvent, the Guarantee Association is given the opportunity but not the obligation to assume the business from the insolvent. They would then be responsible to fulfill all the policy obligations as they became due. If the Guarantee Association elects to assume such business, they may also elect to stand in the shoes of the insolvent company for reinsurance coverage with respect to the business as well. Senate Bill 834 would be beneficial to policyholders affected by an insurance insolvency because it would make the process of receiving and distributing reinsurance benefits to policyholders more efficiently, and it would also benefit reinsurers doing business in the state because it provides certainty on how the reinsurance contracts would be handled in the event of an insurance insolvency. I'll be happy to attempt to answer any questions, but I think I have an expert witness behind me that can do probably a better job.
Thank you, Senator. Questions for the bill sponsor from the committee? Seeing none. First witness here to testify in support, Senate Bill 834.
Hi there. Will Reardon, RGA Reinsurance Group of America, testify in support of the bill. So thank you, members of the committee, for your time, and thank you, Senator Crawford, for your work and effort on this bill, and it's a pleasure to get to meet you. So RGA supports this legislation. Life and health reinsurance contracts are long-term, long-duration contracts. They're multiple year contracts and maybe even multiple decade contracts. And so it's problematic if midstream, and that's how they're designed, long-term contracts, and it's problematic if midstream a stranger to the contract can come in and tinker with the terms and maybe even terminate the terms in a way that contradicts how the product or the contract was originally designed. The problem in Missouri, as we see it right now, is as the law as it stands is vague as to how life and health reinsurance contracts will be dealt with in an insolvency proceeding. And this bill fills those gaps, provides certainty, and provides clarity as the process and the outcome of reinsurance contracts in a life and health domestic company insurance proceeding. In particular, as the Senator Crawford noted, the analysis turns on whether or not the Guarantee Association assumes the contract. If it assumes the contract, then the terms of the contract will be honored, and it's as simple as that. If the Guarantee Association decides not to assume the contract, then the contract could be terminated in a liquidation order, and then the bill itself lays out the terminal settlement process. At the end of the day, the result is the parties to the contract should be economically indifferent whether the contract continues or not. And all things considered, we consider that a good thing. So for that reason, RGA supports the bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for that testimony. Any questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none.
Okay.
Thank you again for being here. Further
Yeah, thank you.
witnesses to testify in support, Senate Bill 834.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mike Winter, I represent the American Council of Life Insurers, and it's always nice to have experts like Mr. Reardon from RGA come in to explain the very technical aspects of some of these bills. So we do support the framework that's contained in Senate Bill 834 and merely want to go on record in support of the legislation.
Thank you for that testimony. Any questions for this witness from the committee?
Thank you.
Seeing none. Next witness to testify in support, Senate Bill 834.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Brandon Koch with Missouri Insurance Coalition, here to testify in support of the bill. I'd like to thank Senator Crawford for sponsoring this important bill that just, again, provides clarity. As the expert Will Reardon stated, it can be a complex issue, but it just provides certainty in this contract process.
Thank you for that testimony. Any questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you again for being here. Next witness in support. Also appreciate witnesses leaving their witness cards at the desk. Seeing no additional witnesses in support, are there any here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 834? Seeing none, are there any here to testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator, do you have any final remarks?
I do not. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, that will end the public hearing on Senate Bill 834. We will next go to the public hearing on Senate Bill 835. Senator, please proceed when ready.
Thank you. Number 2, here we go. So we're going to be using the Senate committee substitute, which you should all have a copy of instead of the original Senate bill. So Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 835 updates 2 provisions relating to lending. So the bill will allow financial institutions to negotiate contract terms on ag loans of $5,000 or less that are secured by real estate. These types of loans are currently tied to usury. Similar changes were made in 2021 for business loans and for ag loans, but one subsection was inadvertently overlooked, and that was this section. Senate Bill 835 would also allow financial institutions to recoup their cost for credit reports that they run on consumer loans. This is already allowed on residential loans, but this would allow it on things like auto loans. Credit reporting agencies in the recent past have doubled their fees, and the community banks continue to absorb the cost, but that's not a long-lasting situation that they would like to be in. So this will allow them to pass that along. And then also, the last piece of this is relating to a provision that dates back to the 1800s. And so it's dealing with the acknowledgement taken by a notary. Back then, the notary had to confirm a woman's status as wife when executing a deed with her husband. But the notary or marital status is not something that a notary really has anything to do with. A notary is simply saying they're seeing someone sign the paperwork. So this is going to update a very old regulation, and the notation of husband and wife will still be in the things like the deed, but it's going to take it off the notary or the acknowledgement piece. There's actually been, I think the bankers can share a story. They had a consumer that was going to get a loan. The title company, because of this antiquated piece in the law, actually stopped the whole transaction. They had to rework some things. They had to redo the loan, and it was kind of a big mess. So, probably since this hasn't been updated since 1883, it might be time to take another look at it. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Also have some witnesses behind me that can help answer questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Any questions for the bill sponsor from the committee? Seeing none. First witness to testify in support, Senate Bill 835.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Kent, registered lobbyist for the Missouri Bankers Association. I want to thank Senator Crawford for filing the bill on our behalf. And she explained the bill very, very well. We believe this bill will help expand access to credit for small dollar ag loans. We also believe that the bill will create transparency with regards to the credit report on consumer loans, and then lastly on the notary provision. And she shared the story, and she's exactly right. We actually had a banker call into our compliance hotline and explain the situation, and our compliance folks they were not even aware that the statute even exists, and they did have to redo the entire loan. It was about a 2-week delay for the customer, and of course the banks, it was at their expense to redo all the paperwork that was necessary. So we have reached out to a few groups to kind of review that to make sure there's no unintended consequences. We don't believe that there are. That we're not screwing up something else along with the notary statute, but we'll certainly keep the bill sponsor updated on if there are any unintended consequences.
Thank you for that testimony. Questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you again for being here. Any further witnesses to testify in support Senate Bill 835?
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Andy Arnold here today for the Missouri Independent Bankers Association. I'm also here on behalf of the Missouri Title Legislative Study Group. They are the title insurance underwriters. We agree with everything that the senator said about the bill and the last provision of the bill regarding the wife having been named in the notary versus they're already in the deed. So the title insurance industry doesn't have any problem with that at this point in time.
Thank you for that testimony. Any questions for this witness? Thank you. None. Thank you again for being here. Further witnesses testify in support Senate Bill 835.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Lisi here representing the Missouri Installment Lenders. We like the bill. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you again for being here. Other witnesses testify in support? Seeing none. Witnesses here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 835? Seeing none. Any witnesses here to testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none. That will conclude the public hearing. Senator, would you have any closing remarks?
No further comments. Thank you.
That will conclude the public hearing on Senate Bill 835.
We're going to take a quick pause to establish a quorum and also to go into exec session, and then we'll come back down. I'll come back down and finish the last bill. Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford.
Here.
Trent. Here. Brown. Here. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts. Here.
We do have a quorum. I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And the ayes have it. Okay, I move that we take up Senate Bill 903. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is the bill of Senator Schroer's that we heard a couple of weeks ago dealing with settlement demands, and I move that we vote Senate Bill 903 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion? Oh, I am sorry. We do not have a committee sub on this. Oh, okay. Sorry. We had a committee sub, but we pulled it back. Well, this is the underlying bill. We do not have a sub. Do I need to restate that? No. Okay. Okay. All right. For clarification. Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Aye. Brown. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. No. Roberts. No. 3-2.
By your vote of 3-2, you have do pass Senate Bill 903. Okay, I now move that we take up Senate Bill 753. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is Senator Justin Brown's bill that we heard last week concerning the commercial financing disclosure law. I now move that we vote Senate Bill 753 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Aye. Brown. Aye. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts.
Aye.
6.
By your vote of 6-0, you have do passed Senate Bill 753. Next up, I move that we take up Senate Bill 737. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is the bill of mine that we heard last week, the Money Transmission Modernization Act. And I vote that we move Senate Bill 737 out of committee. Do pass. Do I have a second? Have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Aye. Brown. Aye. Hoskins. Huff. Aye. Mosley. Roberts. 6.
By your vote of 6-0, you have do pass Senate Bill 737.
836 with the committee sub. Present the committee sub.
Okay, I now move that we take up Senate Bill 836. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is my bill also relating to funds used in real estate transactions, kind of updating terms and things that we heard last year as well. We have a committee substitute. I would just, that ends in .02C, but I would remind the committee that we had the hearing using the substitute. So we didn't make any changes since then. So I move that we adopt the substitute. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion on the substitute? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the committee substitute, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I now move that we vote Senate Bill 836 with Senate committee substitute out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussions? Seeing none, Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Brown. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts. 6.
By your vote of 6-0, you have do passed Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 836. I move that we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And I will come back down there and we'll finish this last hearing.
We'll now begin the public hearing on Senate Bill 1292. Senator, please proceed when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Sandy Crawford, District 28. Thanks for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 1292. And this also is dealing with some laws that were enacted in the 1800s, dealing with, I know this is the second one in a row. It's kind of crazy. We like to update those laws and get into, the correct century occasionally. So this is dealing with municipal depository laws. And as you can imagine, things have changed a lot since 1889, but the laws governing municipal banking practices have changed very little. So there are all kinds of different regulations or statutory provisions. You have different ones for villages, which really have no requirements or restrictions. Fourth-class cities, the Board of Aldermen can choose a depository. Third-class cities allow their city councils to accept bids on the deposits, and they're all over the board. So Senate Bill 1292 will standardize the procedure for selecting a municipal depository for all classes of municipalities, and it removes inconsistent, outdated, and ambiguous statutory requirements, and it updates municipal depository laws to conform to current practices. Happy to answer any questions. I believe I have an expert behind me as well.
Questions for the bill sponsor from the committee? Seeing none. First witness to testify in support, Senate Bill 1292.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Richard Sheets, Executive Director of the Missouri Municipal League, and thank you, Senator Crawford, for introducing this legislation. I'm not sure I'm an expert, but I've heard from finance officers from my career at the Municipal League on selection of the depository, and the current laws are very fragmented. There's different rules for villages, third-class cities, fourth-class cities, and then home rule charter cities have their charter. Basically, in third-class cities, they can only, by state statute, the one we're repealing, can only solicit bids for the depository in July, or fourth-class cities, excuse me. In third-class cities, or fourth-class cities, it's January, April, October, so that it specifies what day of the month that these cities can go out for bids for their depository. That just doesn't really make sense. Another thing this bill does, I think it's important, current law requires bidding for selecting a depository if the bank pays interest on their checking accounts. This legislation requires a competitive bid on selection on any bills. So it just really cleans up, and it makes the selection process standardized from villages, third-class cities, fourth-class cities, and and even home rule charter cities to be clear they can have a competitive bid process. And then also in the bill, there's provision if a depository is not located within your jurisdiction, a city must use the statutes that deal with schools selecting banks to acquire loans, which whatever that process is. That's a really confusing process, and it really provides real complications to our cities. And this just cleans up all those old statutes. I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for being
Thank you.
here for that testimony. Further witnesses testify in support Senate Bill 1292. Please proceed when ready.
Thank you. My name is Pat Kelly. I'm Executive Director of Municipal League of Metro St. Louis. I'd just like to go on record in support of Senate Bill 1292. We get calls several times a year, cities asking how they can go about this process and selecting a new bank. I think because the current processes are so outdated and complicated, many of them don't even go through the process. They just continue to stay with the same bank that they've had for years and years and years. I think that this will help cities become more competitive in their banking services and by streamlining that process. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none,
Thank you
for that testimony. Additional witnesses testify in support Senate Bill 1292. Please proceed when ready.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Kent, registered lobbyist for Missouri Bankers Association. Just want to go on record in support. Want to give a ton of credit to Mr. Sheets. He'd actually brought this idea to us over the summer. I know he worked with our general counsel on a few changes and amendments. I apologize, I do not remember what all those were, but we appreciate, it's not very often that you get another lobbyist coming to a trade association asking for some feedback on their proposals, and so we want to thank him for that.
Thank you for that testimony. Any questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for being here. Additional witnesses testify in support Senate Bill 1292. Seeing none, any witnesses here testify in opposition to Senate Bill 1292? Seeing none, are there any witnesses here testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
I do not.
All right, well, it's that will conclude the public hearing on Senate Bill 1292 with no further business coming before the committee. I move the committee stand adjourned. Do I have a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed say no. And the ayes have it. We are adjourned.